Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on the future of Smartlist Builder. My name is Matt Fleming, and I'm on the account management team at Enhance, and I'll be acting as the moderator for today's session. I'm joined today by a couple of colleagues from one of our partners, eOne. That's Linda Johnson and Ethan Sorensen, and they are the product authors, and they are going to be running through today's session. Just before I hand over to Linda, I've got a few housekeeping items I just need to cover. We expect the webinar to last about an hour. The webinar is being recorded and will be available after the session for you to view on demand. Unfortunately, because we've got about 20 attendees on the session today, you'll all be in listen-only mode. But if you do have a question, please feel free to drop the question into the question pane on the right-hand side. When the new pane opens, type a question in the top box and click ask. I'll be monitoring that, and I probably won't interrupt Linda and Ethan as we go along, but I'll see if I can get those questions answered at an appropriate moment during the webinar. Do feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar. Any we don't get to today, we'll always follow up after the event. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our presenter today, Linda Johnson. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Matt, and hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us to learn about the future of Smartlist Builder. So, as Matt said, my name is Linda Johnson, and I'm the Territory Manager for EMEA, and I'm joined by my colleague, Ethan Sorensen, and Ethan is our technical lead. I'm located in The Hague in the Netherlands, and Ethan is in Copenhagen in Denmark. So we work here locally, focused on working for our European customers. And eOne has been, many of you know us already. I know we're working with lots of you, and we've been in business for over 20 years now. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last September. We have over 20,000 customers around the globe, so we've been busy in those 20 years bringing on new customers, but also maintaining the faithful customers that we have. And we are focused on data for your, helping you manage your data now and in the future. So what's happening? Back in January, eOne started to, back in January, eOne merged our products together, our Smartlist Builder, our SmartView, and PopDoc into one plan. And so we're not sunsetting Smartlist Builder or SmartView. If you're a GP customer and staying with GP and faithful to GP, that's no problem. You can continue to use Smartlist Builder and SmartView. We're just giving you more technology to help you now with GP, but also as you move into the future. And so, as I said, many of you using Smartlist Builder and have been building custom Smartlists with it for years. Some of you may also own our SmartView product, which gives you quick access to those Smartlists and allows you to create favorites, unlimited filters, and grouping. And as we've moved deeper into the Microsoft stack of products, we've learned that the capabilities of Smartlist Builder and SmartView are required in other ERP systems as well. So as we've moved into NAV or into Business Central, you still need that Smartlist Builder capability. So rather than build Smartlist Builder over and over and over again for each ERP system, we've built one system that will work for all of them, and that's called PopDoc. And it gives you all the features of Smartlist Builder and SmartView, but so much more. And we want to give you that power of more. So we've merged all three products together into one offering. And I'm sure this offer sounds exciting, but what does it mean to you? What good are free products if you don't have a need for them? But we guarantee that PopDoc is going to change the way that you do business. Your finance team will now be able to extend their Smartlist beyond only GP data and combine it with data from other systems. Your IT team can access real-time data from one application and embed it in another application. For example, invoices from GP embedded in your CRM system. And your C-levels can use it as a single sign-in to view data from every system used within your organization. And PopDoc allows you to future-proof your data management requirements. If you have future plans to move from GP, PopDoc will manage all your historical data and give you immediate access to it and allow you to combine it with data from your new system as well. I'm sure this offered, sorry. But now let me show you PopDoc in action. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ethan Sorensen. So Ethan, take it away.
Let's take a look at a list in PopDoc. So this is the same list that you would have with a standard smart list to pull in customers. So from this list, I can scroll through, look at all of my records. If I wanted to add filters, I can easily add filters here. So I could say I want to filter for only records that contain a state. So I could say where state does not equal blank, and it'll filter down my list to only those records. If I wanted to add or remove columns, I can easily do that by saying I no longer want the phone column. Maybe I want the salesperson to be over further, so I can grab that column, move it over here. If I wanted to add columns, I can easily do that by saying, I know I want a currency field. I think it's something with balance. Oh yes, it's customer balance. Add that field, and then maybe move this over right after the salesperson. So with this list, I can now do any other grouping, sorting, filtering that I want. So within this list, I could say sort on salesperson ID, but then customer ID ascending. Or maybe it would make more sense to remove that and just do it on customer balance. So you can resort, filter, shape any of your columns at any time, however it is that you need to do that. So in here, if I wanted to see related information, I can easily do that by saying, bring up from the bottom the address pane. So maybe I'm interested in removing this filter. And let's just look at Aaron Fitz. So I can see that he has 3 different addresses on that customer. Maybe I want to see all of the receivables transactions. So I can go through and see all of those. I could say maybe sort by document date ascending or more likely descending so that you can go get all of that information that you need. I can also bring out a sidebar to see things like notes, attachments, anything else that I want. In this case, there's an attachment on this particular customer, and so I can click download, and it'll actually download whatever the attachment is in GP. So this could be a great way for users of PopDoc, if it's your sales team, finance team, anyone, to be able to say, I want to download a PDF of the invoice, or a package tracking slip or something that was stored in the GP doc attached table. So it's a really powerful feature to be able to pull that information. So once you've added any filters, sorting, maybe I want to pull in more records like this, then I can save this as a favorite. So maybe I want to call this just all customers. And I'm going to tag it with some tags to make it easier to find, and then save it. So now the same way as you could do with smart lists in GP, those same features are in here as favorites. So if I went to the breadcrumb, you'll see that there's a default view, but then all of these are customized favorites. If I go further out in the breadcrumb, I can just keep going into different groupings, different lists, different fields to get any of that information that you need. So within this, the last thing I want to show is that you can select multiple companies. So a really powerful feature of the way that it's written is that we're external to your native GP functions, which means that we can query data regardless of any boundaries. We can query multiple companies. We could query multiple GP instances on completely separate servers. So you can start to think about some of the complexities that you may have in your business process today and how a tool like this can allow you to access all of those different points of information. I'm going to switch to a different list here to pull in all sales lines so I can show you a couple of other fun features that you can do, especially around filters. So if I bring up filters, if it's something that would be a drop-down field like SOP type, then we already understand the GP data structure, and we're going to give you these out of the box. So I could say I don't care about quotes and returns, but I want all of the others. So I'm going to say one of list, and I'm going to say bring in all of these. But then I want to add another filter, and I'm going to say only give me records where maybe document date is greater than or equal to, and I don't want to put a particular date. So I'm going to say go away. Let's just say a compare field for the start of this quarter. So now my list is already pre-filtered down. We can see all of those down here to easily jump back in and check. But you can add as many ands and ors and whatever other filters you need to get this data down to just your subset of information. So if you want to start segmenting this off based on salesperson or based on customer class or whatever it is, we can really segment that data, group it, get your subtotaling, get anything else that you need, all from this very powerful feature. So if I wanted to export this, I can actually save this as a Excel file. So I can send this Excel file to someone else and say, here's all of my data, so that they can review it. Maybe it's your customers with outstanding balances or something, and you need to give it to someone else. But at any time, you can go to these favorites and you can share a favorite with another user directly inside of PopDoc. So how easy is it to configure all of this? So I'm going to go to connectors. Within connectors, I'm going to go to my GP one because we're focused on the GP functions of PopDoc. So in here, you can rename anything. So if you don't want it to be called Dynamics GP, you can just call it My ERP. You can call it whatever you want. If you want to customize it, maybe you don't call them companies, maybe you call them entities or organizations or corporations. However you want it, you can do that in here. You can customize what groups are available. You can customize which lists you have. You can add or remove companies. So if there were other companies in my system, I could add those. You can even set the currencies. So if you have different currencies for different companies, so we can really customize this to fit your needs. So this is what you get out of the box with the GP connector. All of these lists are just standard lists. This is the same list that you're going to get when you first install PopDoc. But then you can go to Add Lists, and this is going to discover any other Smartlist Builder, Smartlist Designer lists that you've also created in your system. So you can see in Smartlist Designer and Smartlist Builder, I have a couple of other ones. So maybe I want to add salesperson history. And so if I hide this, you can see it's now pending, discovering everything about that list, and it's going to add it directly in here for me. So let's go and edit one of our lists so you can see what you can customize. So in here, you can change again the name of everything that you have, but I want to show just a few of the different options here related to your lists. So you can change all of your data types. So if you didn't want it to appear a certain way, we do have a lot of different data types that we understand. So for instance, if you select phone or email, it's going to automatically put those in as hyperlinks that will open their soft phone or send it directly to Outlook so that they can send an email to that person. So we understand some of those shortcuts that you might need. So if you have something that you wanted to say, these are all currencies and they're doing the sum, maybe this particular one I want to be an average, so you can edit that. Or you can drill down, you can even define how many currency decimal places you want. And then you could say maybe this particular field will be negative based on another field. So for instance, if you're on sales lines, you might say, I want the amount to appear as negative in my list if it's set up with a SOP type of return. If we scroll to the bottom here, we can actually pick which fields will be your default fields. So this is the same thing that you had with Smartlist Builder, and you can go in and say, I don't want it to have salesperson code, or I don't care about phone 1, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to add bank name. So you can go add, remove any of those columns as needed. You can customize restrictions. So a restriction would be before the user even sees it. So we could say that doesn't include a active customer. So we could just add a filter saying, oops, we only care if the block or active is no. So now those other records will be filtered out before we even get to the list level. Details. So with the detail, you can actually configure those drill down points of information. So like when I went to attachments or notes or receivables, if I open one of these, you can change the amount of records shown. You can change where it is. Do you want this in the sidebar below the record, or is it drill down? You define what that filter is. So in this case, I'm saying the customer ID on the receivables transaction should be equal to the field on the parent list of customer ID. So it's very easy to do this again from drop-down lists to configure it however you need. And then you can add and remove any fields, any sorting, anything like that. So if I decided I wanted this to be defaulting to document date, descending, then I can do that here. So from a list standpoint, the last thing you can do is configure custom lists. So custom lists that's really what makes PopDoc shine as the future tool for all of your reporting needs. So in here, I could say, I want to add a custom list that joins multiple lists together, or compares lists, or does a merge of the lists. And I think it would be a good example just to look at a join list. And so I'm going to join some of my GP data with customer engagement. So I'm going to say all customers with CRM data, right? And apparently datum is the singular version of data, so I'll leave that. And then I'm going to say this is going into sales. And what is my first list? So from GP, I want sales, I want customers. From my customer engagement, I want accounts, customers, and what is the join? So I'm going to say account number should be equal to my customer ID. Save it. Then I can go and select fields. And so this will allow me to select fields from both lists. So I could say, I know I want my customer ID, my customer name. So scroll down and grab those. And the only other thing I want from this one is the customer balance. So I'll add that. Then I'm going to say, let's bring some fields out of the Dataverse. So I'm going to grab accounts, and I'm going to say, let's just get some address details. So I want the address, city, country, region. Is it postal, right? And maybe we'll get the owner name. So we've added those. If you wanted to, you could filter, or you could go back. We could set up which fields we want to be our defaults. So I could say, let's add all of this to the list by default, and then move the customer ID up and move the customer name. All right, so now I have this list ready to go. So if I go back to PopDoc and say add a new tab from my GP connector, I want to see sales, customers with CRM data, add it, and there you go. So I can see these records coming from CRM, and then it's bringing in all of that address information, who is the owner, which may be different than the salesperson, and I'm really able to combine all that information. So if you don't have everything in just one system, you can actually pull it from multiple based on your requirements. All right, so I want to look at this now from a perspective outside of the PopDoc interface, and it's a concept that we call widgets. So if I was in customer engagement, just looking at an account, I can actually embed the data from GP directly on that account. So here I'm looking at ERP invoices, and we can see all of those ERP invoices out of GP. I could see related detail like their line items, or if I were to add attachments, I'd be able to download the invoice PDF or shipping information or whatever it is. So you're not limited based on using an on-premise tool. We're really taking GP and bringing it to the cloud for you, because we're empowering you to embed this data into any system you use today. So just to give you an idea, we're not only able to do it with customer engagement, we can do it with lots of other systems. Pretty much any web application will work, but I could have that exact same list embedded in Salesforce.com. So this is the exact same widget pulling all of the same data and giving me the same insights that I would need. So another example might be in Microsoft Teams. We'd have an app that will allow you to embed a list directly into Teams. So if you wanted to track maybe a project out of GP and you have a team that's dedicated to that project, or a salesperson will want to quickly be able to see what their sales numbers are directly into the system that they're in. So we're not about trying to make them move to a new system or change the way that they work. It's really going to bring it to them exactly where they are. So how hard is it to create your own custom widget? So in PopDoc, if I go to Developer, I can create one of these widgets. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm just going to call it GP Sales Lines. And I'm going to say that this is a single list, and it's going to pull out of GP sales line items. And we can even set the locale. So locales are built into everywhere in PopDoc, allowing you to really customize it to match the localization that the user would be in. So this would be formatting of dates, of currencies, of any number field, so that it looks the way that the user would expect. Then I can go and add fields. So add as many fields as you want to show by default, but of course the users can add more when the widget loads if they need them. So in this case, I'm going to say we want the document date, and we want the item number. Maybe we want the quantity. We'll need the customer number and the unit price. Okay, so we've added these fields. Again, I can reorganize them any way that I want. And I already have created a widget. So if I copy this and we just open a new tab, just to browse to my iframe directly, and just like that, it's done. So I can easily do that to pull that data out of any system that I'm using. If I wanted to customize it further, I could say include all of the options, and now if it browses to it again, users can now switch companies, add columns, maybe drill into additional information about a particular customer. So we're really giving them a lot of flexibility here, and you're doing all of this through a user-friendly interface. Now my list is giving me all sales lines, so maybe I want to pre-filter this to only particular sales lines. So I'm going to add a parameter called customer, and I'm going to tie it to customer ID. So now if I go in here, I can add a new parameter saying customer equals Aaron Fit 1, and filter it down. And now it's only showing me the Aaron Fitz electrical records. So you can pre-filter all of these pieces of data. So it's really nice to be able to go in and customize those and do everything that you need. We can customize these iframes for a lot of different systems. So right now it's just going into the default theme that we have. But let's say you wanted to have it look like GP. Maybe you want people to know that their data is coming from GP. So I'm going to add another theme. So I'm going to say theme equals dynamics GP. And now my list is going to look like a GP list. So just for fun, one more is if I wanted to make it look like dynamics CRM. So this one does quite a bit more changing than that one. And now it looks and feels more native to that particular system. So you can really do whatever is needed, whatever those requirements are. So once you have these URLs, you can embed them in any system. And if you're concerned about exposing your GP data to the world, we do have security. So you can require tokens. So not just a URL, they would also be required to provide a token, or it can only be restricted to certain domains. So there is some levels of security built in here, which your IT team would be interested to learn more about, but I just want to make you aware that there is the feature there. So we've been talking about PopDoc as a GP reporting tool, but I really want to make sure that I highlight that this is a future-proofing tool. This is a tool that you can use to connect to anything. So I briefly showed that we can connect to the Dataverse or to customer engagement CRM, but we could also connect to things like Salesforce, to Magento, WooCommerce, Shopify, Business Central, F&O, whatever it is that you're using, we can go out and connect to all those different systems. So here I am pulling data out of CRM. It looks exactly the same as the system that I'm using now. If I flip to Magento, again, it looks the same as what I'm doing here. So this is going to be a tool that you can take with you into other areas. One I want to highlight is if you're looking to move to Business Central in the future, we're already heavily invested in that space. So if I was to say I want to see all of my posted sales invoice lines. So this would be the same list as all sales lines out of my GP, but now I'm pulling it out of Business Central. And you'll notice it looks exactly the same. It's got all the same functionality to switch companies, to add your columns, do all of that. And really this is a way for you to take your data out of your system today and move it into the cloud in the future. So we really want you to think about PopDoc as a solution to take your GP data and bring it to the cloud, but also as an option in the future to take these Smartlist building, designing, and customization tools that you have today and bringing them with you to any system that you use in the future.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. So as Ethan was showing you, I just wanted to sort of go over the data strategy with you. We do have Smart Connect, which is our traditional integration tool, and it will keep your databases synchronized. It will, in this case, you're having data in both systems. You've got data sitting in D365, and you've got data sitting in GP or Business Central, whatever ERP you happen to be using. And the Smart Connect is the tool that's keeping them synchronized. But when we move into the online world, so when we're moving from in D365 Sales, which is an online CRM system, and D365 Business Central, which is an online ERP, we really are rethinking the strategy for how we do integration. Do we really need that data stored in both locations, or do we just need to be sitting in CRM and have visualization into that data that's sitting in Business Central? And so PopDoc gives you that ability for virtual integration. And Ethan showed you how to embed a widget of GP data into CRM, so that in CRM, we're sitting there as the salespeople looking at data, but it doesn't exist in CRM. It exists in your ERP system, but we're viewing it in CRM. So it gives you that window into other products. There are times when traditional integration is still going to be required, but there are many times when it's not, where virtual integration is enough, and PopDoc gives you that ability. The other thing I wanted to point out too is for customers, and Ethan touched on this at the very end, is the data strategy for when you're ready to move from GP and perhaps into Business Central or F&O or even another ERP system. We hope you're going to stay in the dynamic stack. And so what you can do with that GP data now is keep your historical data either in GP with one user. If you're already using a data warehouse, you might want to store the data there. But what we recommend, and what we like and think you would like as well, is to move it into an Azure data lake. You're still in Microsoft because you're using Azure to store your data in, but the data lake is very inexpensive. It's the least expensive way for you to be able to store data. If you've got, 14, 15 years of history sitting here, you don't want to move them all into your brand new online ERP system. You're not going to need all that history, and why pay all that Azure storage to be sitting in, for all that data to be sitting in Business Central when you're not going to need it. So PopDoc can move your data up into the data lake for you. And then when you need to combine that data from Business Central and GP, because now you're 6 months into Business Central and your customer calls and says, I've got, I want a list of my whole last year's worth of invoices. Well, 6 months of them are sitting in Business Central, 6 months of them are sitting in GP, or more likely sitting up here in the data lake. With PopDoc, you just go into PopDoc and you create that list. You pull the data from Business Central, you pull the data from GP into a single list, and you can do it within minutes. He just showed you how to do it. And then you can convert it to a PDF file and send it off to your customer by email. So it makes very quick work, and solves that problem of, oh goodness, if I move out of GP, what do I do with all my historical data? Well, this PopDoc license that you already own can handle that for you. So, it's great that you can use it as a Smartlist Builder and as a replacement for Smartlist Builder, or in conjunction with Smartlist Builder, because you can still keep your Smartlist Builder license, but it does so much more as well. And we just wanted to really touch base on all that technology. So we do have an offer for you that, for if you're a Smartlist Builder customer who wants to move over to PopDoc, and your account managers at Enhance are happy to discuss that with you, and they'll go through each one of you on an individual basis to decide what's the best decision for yourselves. But now is the time, at the time of your Smartlist Builder renewal, to make that decision. So please do reach out to your account managers at Enhance. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I would like to thank Matt and the whole team at Enhance for hosting us here today. I really appreciate your time.
That's brilliant, Linda. That's really good. Thank you very much. There were some questions, and Ethan actually addressed some of them around security and the different data sources that you can pull information from. One of the questions is what version of GP is required? Is it a version specific PopDoc, or is it?
No, it works with any version of GP.
Okay.
And in terms of connectors as well, we have over 60 connectors for PopDoc, and so we can connect to over 60 different applications. And we also have a REST Web Services connector, so if you're working with a product that has a REST API, we can use that as a connector as well.
Okay, and I know about that because I've just done it for one of my other clients, which is really good. One of the questions was mobile device support. So if I write a PopDoc report, can I publish that through tablet, through a mobile device? I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know we were working on PopDoc for mobile, and I'll need to check into that for you, and I'll get back to you, Matt, and let you know. But I know we were working on that, so let me just check on the state of that, because it's definitely on our roadmap. That's
brilliant. Well, that was like, as I say, there was a number of questions, but they were the ones that went sort of directly addressed as part of the demonstration. So that's really good. Thank you. Could I just ask you to roll on to the next slide for me, please, Linda?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. The webinar today is part of a series that we try to run regularly. We try to run at least 1 or 2 a month. They're here for education, the webinars. We also do some online training. There's a small additional charge for the online training, but it's a dedicated session. And you can find out about all our upcoming events at our website and on our events page. And that's on the bottom of that slide there. So please pop on, take a look. That's not every single event we've got coming up. There's lots going on. Some are industry specific, some are product specific. So that's great. Could you just roll up to the final slide for me? Thanks, Linda. As Linda said, she's absolutely spot on. Please contact your account manager. If you're unsure who your account manager is, or if you're possibly a prospect visiting Enhance for the first time, you can always reach out to us at sayhello@enhance.com. You'd be very welcome. We'd be happy to get back to you. Keep an eye on your inboxes over the next few days. We will send you a link to today's recording if you want to share that with any of your colleagues. And the final thing I would ask is once the webinar is finished, there'll be a short survey. If you could take 2 minutes to fill that in for me, that would be great. It helps us plan for future webinars and helps us to tailor how we present these things in the future. That would be really great. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great Tuesday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Linda. Bye.